Hello there, welcome back and welcome to part 65 in our build log series of the Trumpeter. You know what, if you don't know by now you never will. Today I am finishing off B-Deck in its entirety. So I've already done it, so I'm adding benches, I'm adding deck chairs, I'm adding people, I'm also adding the Maker's Mark at the front of the ship, very exciting moment there. I'm adding signage above the entrances. I might go onto a deck as well, but we'll see. I'm also going to do a clear coat of matte varnish at the end, just to sort of lock in all that detail. Probably not going to speak all that much during this episode because it's all fairly self-explanatory, but I will do a bit here and there as it's needed. So, without any further ado, let's crack on. So just before we crack on, I want to show you something because I've made a bit of a change to my lighting circuit. Originally, what I did was I had a magnetic connector in here, and that was designed to connect to another magnetic connector inside the hull. And the idea being that when you put the superstructure down, those two magnets find each other and they make the electrical connection without you having to worry about anything. You know, you just put it down and you can reliably assume that the electrical connection's been made. And it was a lovely idea in principle, but it just didn't really work very well. You know, what I'd end up doing is I'd put the superstructure half down and then I'd have to sort of fiddle around, get the lights connected up and then put the rest of the superstructure down. And you know, that's all very well when the superstructure's not got much detail on, but we're getting to a point where I'm going to be putting funnels on, I'm going to be putting rigging in, and it's just going to be too vulnerable. I don't want to be messing around with electrical connections when I've got all this delicate work in my hand. So I needed to come up with a sort of a different solution, something that would be a lot more reliable. So what I've done is I've found a two-way connector. So this is the male side of it, and this goes in the hull, and these are the two pads here. There's solder legs on the other side to solder on my wires which go down to the power supply for the lighting. And these two connections here are spring-loaded, so when this gets pushed onto the female equivalent, these get squashed in. And it just guarantees a good connection. Even when there's a bit of vibration, that spring keeps the electrical connection quite nicely. So this is the female, which goes with the male, and you can see, there we go, exactly the same design, it's just that you've got two pads there instead of two sprung sort of prongs. And this will go in the superstructure and will accept the current from the male one. So to mount these, I have designed this bracket, and it's a really simple bracket. Just got a gluing surface there, two mounting holes, and a space in the middle here for the actual connectors and the wires that come off into the rest of the ship. Nice and simple, and I printed this on my 3D printer. So as you can see, there is the male connection, and you can see the two springs. Press those down like so. And then when I come to actually add the superstructure, and I'm just doing it with only B-Deck in place, you can see what happens. Now I'm not even looking at the electrical connection, I'm making sure everything else lines up. You can see, and I'll just move the camera so you get a better view, you can see that those two connections have now been made. See? So if I lift this up, you can see that the two electrical connections make, and there you go, you've got a much better connection, much more reliable, and it is just a much more dependable system. The other nice advantage of this as well is that these wires are quite a lot thicker than the wires on the magnetic connectors, which results in quite a lot less of a voltage drop, which of course is great because it means the lights in the superstructure are more comparably bright to the lights around the rest of the model. Just getting ready to paint these areas brown. This is a job that I have been putting off for a long time because it's tedious and not all that satisfying, but need to crack on with it, so no time like the present. So as you can see, that's one first coat, and it looks a wee bit sort of rubbish. If we move further back, these are the areas that I've now just gone over in 2 coats, and similarly on the other side, you see you've got a much more solid colour. It's worth saying that it's not perfect. That's 1 coat there, and that's 2 coats there. You see, there is still a bit of colour variance, but that does not matter to me. Bear in mind, this is natural wood, this was teak, so there would have been a bit of colour variance. You know, wood's not a flat colour, case in point on the desk. So I don't mind a little bit of colour variance, but that really is too much. That looks like I painted it with a thin paint, you know, so that doesn't really give the impression we're after. So I'll carry on now along A Deck Promenade, and hopefully in about 2 hours this rather arduous job will be complete. So I'm just doing the finishing little touches to the wood now, and as you can see I put some masking tape on. The reason for that is because I want it to look like the wooden balustrade is just overhanging the side a little bit. So I need to get this under bit done as well. And the masking tape is quite instrumental in allowing me to do that, because now I can just sort of quite easily go along with the paintbrush and mark it up. And masking tape prevents any overspill. Now you'll notice that I've put double the deck chairs on the port side than on the starboard side, and there's a very good reason for this. I'm working on the assumption, and please correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I'm working on the assumption that deck chairs would be more prevalent on the side of the ship that the sun was shining. So I want to give the impression that most people are choosing to have their deck chairs on this side, where they might catch the sun, rather than on this side, where it might be that wee bit cooler. Just adding some people, and this is second class promenade space, and I'm going to add quite a few. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people to add, and the reason I'm adding a fair few here is because of all the places, this would be relatively sheltered in comparison to the promenade decks that second class had on the boat deck. This would be a fairly sheltered part of the ship. You know, you've got this area which is just a bit more protected from the wind. And bearing in mind that this is an April crossing, pretty nippy, pretty chilly, so I think it's perhaps more reasonable to assume that you've got people on this area of the deck than others. That's the logic anyway. So I'm going to start with a steward, and he's just going to be wandering towards second class smoking room. Just sort of carrying on with the theme of the stewards sort of preparing the room for later on. That's the idea there. Oh, steady. Oh, she's inebriated. Absolutely trashed. Right, that's the one down. So here we have an officer walking with a great sense of purpose, perhaps going down into the well deck and perhaps even further aft out onto the poop deck. This charming young man in a very nice tank top. Maybe it's Lawrence Beasley, who knows? We'll have him just sitting on the edge of a deck chair. Contemplating the world. So I'm just adding these very large entrance signs. I'm of course joking, they're tiny. And someone in the last episode quite rightly said that these were illuminated on the actual ship. Quite right. On this ship, I'm afraid, they aren't going to be illuminated because, well, firstly, as you can see, they are so small that I think to illuminate in any way is going to be impractical. I have sort of thought about it, but I just think it's going to be impractical. Secondly, on the real ship, these would have been a box which was illuminated from the inside with sort of opaque glass with second class entrance written on them. On this model, they are metal. They're signed. They're photo etch, which has been printed on. So I know it's a concession to accuracy, but illumination ain't happening here, I'm afraid. And these are going to be very vulnerable, so what I am going to do is, on the side that you're probably not going to see, I'm going to put a little dab of glue which should hold them a bit more securely. At the minute, they do have a little bit of glue on already, obviously. But if I lose these, that's that. I'm never going to find them again, so my preference just to slightly overdo it on the glue front. Oh, not the camera, very sorry. Now, whilst the camera's on, let's have a look if these people have stuck down. Good. 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 And I'm also going to do my patented test, which is hitting them with a pair of tweezers. Now you might say that's stupidity, but what I'm doing is I'm making sure that the bond is reasonably strong, and that gives me a bit of confidence that they're going to remain stuck down. If I tap them and they immediately break off, it may initially seem a bit frustrating, but better they break off now than they break off 3 months down the line and get lost and get sucked up by a Hoover or something like that. So as before, done a few people, not as many here because I think it'll be a bit nippy, but let's see what's happened. So a couple of officers just having a natter. I mean, they won't be having a natter, they'll be talking about something quite important, I'm sure, but a couple of officers standing together. Maybe they're chatting about where the binoculars are, who knows. Someone walking left to right, and a couple of folks walking right to left. So, there we have it. B-deck, now complete. And this is what's really cool, is being able to look through the windows and see stuff, see detail that you otherwise might miss, you know? One of the really nice things about having people on the model visible for the first time is it gives you a concept of just how big the ship actually was. There's some people there, looking all the way forward. There's a hell of a long way. It really does give you a good idea of just how big the ship really was. And there you go, that's it for B-Deck. All done. So I'll leave you with a few photos of the finished sections. If you've enjoyed this, do please like and subscribe. Also, if you think I've forgotten anything, do please let me know. It's not beyond the realms of possibility that I've forgotten to add something. Give me a shout if you think I have, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye for now.